Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and Knowledge Pool is back. This week we're going to talk about one of the most popular up-and-coming decks, Bant Planeswalkers. Brian Braun-Duin piloted this deck to a top 32 finish in this past week's SCG Open in Nashville. In a format dominated by blue and black devotion, this deck could help shake things up. Let's dive right in. As per usual, we start with the lands. This deck makes full use of its 3 temples by playing 4 Temple of Enlightenment, 3 Temple of Mystery, and 3 Temple of Plenty. In addition to these duels, the deck also runs 4 Hallowed Fountain and a Singleton Breeding Pool and Temple Garden. Combine these with 5 islands, 4 plains, and 2 Mutavault, and you have your 27 land mana base. This deck is called Bant Walkers for a reason. There are no creatures. This deck wins with Planeswalkers. As far as win conditions are concerned, the deck runs 3 Elspeth Sun's Champion and 3 Kiora the Crashing Wave. Together with a playset of Jace Architect of Thought, these walkers make up the only non-land, non-enchantment permanents in the deck. Elspeth is the classic finisher for control decks right now. This card should obviously be here considering this is basically a blue-white control deck that splashes green for Kiora. Speaking of Kiora, a walker must be really strong for someone to add an entire color to a mana base just to play it. Turns out Kiora is the real deal. Her ultimate went off multiple times in the open, causing a string of sad Magic players to cry over the gigantic 9/9 Krakens that now haunt their dreams. While seemingly weak with only 2 loyalty, in a control strategy she can protect herself decently well. If you can create stability on board, getting her to her ultimate isn't that difficult. 3 turns to a control player is nothing. Want to know the phrase control players hear the most? That's time on the round! Turn 0 begins now! Tough life. In all seriousness, Kiora can help you accelerate when you need to and assist in holding off that pesky Fire Drinker Satyr that you just can't find an answer for right now. She fits perfectly in this deck. It's just one step away from being a really expensive Turbo Fog. This is a control deck, which means there has to be at least 20 spells in it. Sure enough, this time the magic number is 23. We start with the only permanent among these, a playset of Detention Sphere. Another classic control card, the sphere gets rid of pretty much anything bothering you. Great in the mirror versus walkers, great against Pack Rat, even Master of Waves tokens are sad. Just a good all-around control card you can't skip out on. A playset of Azorius Charm seems like an auto-include regardless of the meta. Game 1 it just does so much. While the lifelink isn't that relevant unless you have a Kraken, drawing a card and delaying your opponent's attacks are both very useful in a control deck. Next up is a full playset of Dissolve. This deck is looking to counter mid-game and late-game bombs. It doesn't want the likes of Grey Merchant or Master of Waves hitting the table. Similarly, awesome against the mirror. Usually the control deck with the most counters tends to do pretty well. Next up are the playsets of Sphinx's Revelation and Supreme Verdict. I bunched these up because where one goes, the other seems to follow. Revelation lets you get through as much of your deck as you need looking for your win conditions. Since you only have 6 of them in your deck, this makes Revelation that much more relevant. I cannot emphasize how well positioned Supreme Verdict is right now. Most of the big decks minus control rely on creatures. Not only do they rely on creatures, but they rely on having the most creatures out as humanly possible. Devotion is a beautiful thing, and Supreme Verdict eats it for breakfast. Auto-include. The last spells in the main deck are 2 Last Breath and 1 Syncopate. The Last Breath are perfect to stem off early game problems. Great against most of what Mono Red has to offer. Also really good against Voice of Resurgence. The one of Syncopate is just the next best counter for this deck. 4 Dissolve clearly wasn't enough, and objectively, Syncopate's a good card. It does exceedingly well against opponents that tap out, and has real value late game. Perfect 5th counter. The sideboard is where things start getting really interesting. We'll start with the usual. 1 Pithing Needle is a good choice in a meta filled with walkers and Mutavaults. Also, since most people are net decking, it's pretty easy to guess what cards you think your opponent has after just a few turns. 2 Negate are boarded in for every control matchup. If Bant Walkers becomes popular, Negate automatically becomes the best counter in the format. Not only that, but it does deal with Thoughtseize, Underworld Connections, Hero's Downfall, and a lot more annoying cards. We all knew Revoke Existence would be a staple as soon as its reprint was announced. 2 of them in the sideboard destroy Thassa, her Bident, Underworld connections, and even opposing Detention Spheres. This will be in Standard for the next year and a half. This is where things get good. 3 Mistcutter Hydra take full advantage of the green splash. This card is a bomb against control decks. You don't have to worry about anything besides a board wipe. Protection from blue is devastating for Control's removal suite. This will come in every control matchup with blue. The last 7 cards in the sideboard are a split between a playset of Archangel of Thune and 3 Brimaz, King of Oreskos. The reasoning behind doing this is that your opponents are going to take out all their removal after game 1 since it's virtually useless against your walkers. With the exception of Hero's Downfall, it'd be unlikely they keep any removal in. Because of this, Brimaz and the Archangel can go to town. With the counterspells to protect them, fighting these guys post-sideboard with very little removal will be tough for any deck to handle. Now that we have the list out of the way, let's talk strategy. This deck does splash green, and I know you want to use the Explore ability on Kiora, but try not to. You have 10 temples that let you scry and mana fix. There shouldn't be a situation where you're really hung up on land. If it does happen, then obviously you have to minus her, but try to avoid that at all costs. At the end of the day, she's a win condition. Keep that in mind. On that vein of thought, playing Kiora into a board where you're behind and your opponent has creature advantage is usually poor. Yes, you can take one of them out of the game, but 3 damage is not a lot, and chances are your opponent can deal that in 1 turn. Just because you can play Kiora doesn't mean you always should. Your early game is obviously vulnerable, just like any control deck. There's no reason to be too stingy with your last breath if it'll help save you a couple of turns worth of damage. You're a control deck. The 4 life they'll gain won't mean much. When control wins or loses, it tends to do so pretty emphatically. Since most of the decks you'll be facing are mono blue and mono black, I'm going to give you guys some advice for these matchups. Revoke Existence is a monster against blue. Bring it in every time. In addition, hold back your Detention Spheres unless you see Master come out and create a bunch of dudes. You don't want to waste that on a singleton Nightveil Spectre. Trust me. Fighting against mono black is all about patience. Supreme Verdict and Detention Sphere may decide the game if used right or wrong. Try to not let the board get too cluttered. You may have the Verdict in hand, but if you sit there waiting for them to mass creatures and they drop a Grey Merchant on you, that's gonna hurt. Use your D-Spheres for Pack Rat and your Verdicts whenever there's enough devotion accumulated to scare you. The best advice isn't really advice, it's more common sense, but I feel the need to say it anyways. In these devotion matchups, the key is keeping the board clear. I'm not saying counter everything, but counter most things as much as you can. These decks don't have the card advantage machines that you do. Underworld Connections is fine, but it isn't Sphinx's Revelation. Mono Blue barely has card advantage to speak of, minus the scry from Thassa. Run them out of stuff to do. All other control rules apply to this deck as well. Your deck is slow, your deck is fat, you'll never play the first non-land permanent. Always, if possible, try to represent the counter in hand. It freaks a lot of players out. Hope you're okay with all that. Bant Walkers is a cool variation on a classic strategy. This deck with some tuning has a real shot at toppling the kings of the format. This next message is for all you mono blue and mono black devotion players. Want help against Bant Walkers? Do what you always do. Play all your cards because they're insanely good and give crazy value. I hate devotion sometimes. That wraps up our deck tech on Bant Walkers. This strategy looks really fun to play, and I'm hoping it creates some real crashing waves in Standard. I'm awesome. Anyways, be sure to comment below with your thoughts, concerns, or questions about this deck. I love hearing what you have to say, and I'll be responding as best I can. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.